Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 31st call of the Amazon Investor Coalition. Again, this is a weekly call and podcast series dedicated to advancing forest-friendly economic development across the Amazon region of South America. We simultaneously look at impact investing as well as the rule of law. You can't have healthy economic development without a healthy rule of law. And healthy economic development is an essential process to avoiding deforestation. This week, we're going to be featuring the Subnational Climate Fund, or SNCF Global, as the acronym goes. I'm pausing to let more people into the call. This is a fund that has been supported or de-risked by the Green Climate Fund. We're going to learn about that story. What is the Green Climate Fund? Where does it come? Where does it come from? How does one collaborate with it? We're going to be hearing from Patrick Shirley of Pegasus Capital, Christophe Nuttall from R20 Regions of Climate Action, and Pierre Rousseau from BNP Paribas. Wow, this is a really popular call. This is a good sign. Lots of people want to hear you guys speak. Before we kick it off, I wanted to just acknowledge that Craig Kogut and David Kogut, Craig founded Pegasus Capital. They were going to be original presenters on this call. I believe that David has joined us, and so I'd love to just let him present. And Craig isn't able to make it because of some family issues and COVID-19. Craig, if you're there, do you want to just come off mute for a second and say hi and tell us a little bit about you and your dad, and is everything okay?
Sure. I'll be quick, since frankly, hearing from Patrick will be far more interesting than me, and he's really been spearheading this. And thank you, Jonah. As you mentioned, my grandfather looks like he is going to pass from COVID in the next day or so. So it's just about making him comfortable at the end. So we've been a little distracted, but just briefly on Pegasus, it was founded by my father, as you mentioned, Craig Kogut, in 1996. He had originally been one of the founding partners of Apollo Advisors at the time, what is now Apollo Global Management, and led the deal that really put them on the map. It was a distressed junk bond portfolio that they purchased, and it was called Executive Life. Wanted to focus in the middle market still. So as Apollo got bigger, started Pegasus, and really since early 2000s or 2000 has been a pioneer in the field of ESG, incorporating it before it was a core term into our funds. And our primary areas of focus have been sustainability is one core pillar, and health and wellness is a second. So a lot of ESG tailwinds behind those sectors. And we've deployed 5 funds, $2.6 billion invested. I joined in 2011 or so, have sort of led up our wellness initiatives and as well as supported initiatives like this. So a lot of great deals we've been fortunate to be a part of in great areas, and particularly excited about this fund that Patrick is heading up for us, and the impact we can make and change the world for the better. It's it's very nice when your passion on a personal level intersects with work, and we're fortunate enough to say we can do that. So we'll turn it over to far more interesting people than me, but thank you again, Jonah, and everyone for taking the time to listen about us, and looking forward to presenting.
David, thanks so much. And please give your dad and the rest of your family our best. So I want to go ahead and turn it over to Christophe and Patrick and Pierre. They're going to make a presentation. I also invite the 3 of you gentlemen to introduce yourselves and give us a little bit about your background. And I just want to appreciate how remarkable this opportunity is to bring the savvy of New York City private equity to the challenge of forest-friendly economic development of the Amazon region with a coalition of extraordinary allies. Patrick, Christophe, and Pierre, the floor is yours. If you're dialing in, *9 takes you off mute.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Shona. And let me head off briefly. So it's really a great pleasure meeting so many of you. And apologies if it's a bit dark maybe on my side. I'm in Portugal and it's already 9 p.m. So that's the reason behind that. But nevertheless, I'm super excited to be joining all of you today and tell you a bit more about the Subnational Climate Fund. About myself, the last 10 years, or basically most of my professional careers, I have spent in impact investing. I've built a asset manager called Blue Orchard. Some of you might have heard about it. It was one of the pioneers in microfinance. We sold the firm last year to the UK asset manager Schroders. And so I'm super excited now to basically be working alongside with an investment legend or investment legends like David Kogat and Craig Kogat to embark on this great initiative here with the Subnational Climate Fund. Now, before I go into details on this initiative, I would like to hand over to Christoph Nuttall or perhaps David Albertoni from the R20 Foundation, who are also on the call today. Very important partners here with us on this initiative, and so over to R20.
Thank you, Patrick. Thanks a lot, and indeed, I will be representing Christoph Nuttall on this call. So I am David Albertani. I'm the Deputy CEO of R20, and R20 is a foundation, mostly known because we've been founded by the former governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, based on his legacy in California. And the role of our foundation has always been to support subnational entities identifying, developing, and financing their sustainable infrastructure. So we're active in renewable energy, waste management, water management, and sustainable agriculture. And we've been working in the past 7 years now in multiple geographies, multiple countries, and we are very excited. 2 years ago, we started this initiative of the Subnational Climate Finance Initiative, and we are very excited to have been able to partner with Pegasus, BNP, Gold Standard, and IUCN. And with this amazing consortium, we spent the last year working very, very hard with the Green Climate Fund to manage, to have them as anchor investor. So we are very happy, and thanks again for inviting us for this amazing audience. Thank you a lot.
Very well. And we've also prepared a small presentation, which I tried to share. I hope you can see it. And
yeah, it worked.
Excellent. So this is just a bit to structure the discussion, but we don't need to go through the slides in great detail, but it helps to hopefully visualize a bit what we are aiming to accomplish with the Subnational Climate Fund. And so maybe starting with the name of the Subnational Climate Fund, to give you a bit background, right? I think there is two important elements in the name. One is subnational and the other one is climate. So overall, what we are aiming for here is really to scale up private investments in mid-sized climate green infrastructure projects. And the history of the name is, as David Albertoni mentioned, somewhat related to Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger and his work in California. So at the subnational level, subnational is everything below the national level, so being it the city, being it the state level. And the overall vision is really to have climate or more generally environmental initiatives in terms of commercial successfully investments materialized in a mid-sized range. That typically applies to the regional level, like the Amazon region, but also cities or states. And this is where the name Subnational comes from. But it's a commercial initiative. There is not more or less government involvement than in any other infrastructure project. This might explain somewhat where the name comes from. What we are doing is like a typical infrastructure investment fund. We invest in infrastructure projects. We invest in here the mid-sized range. which is that we take tickets in the range of 5 to 75 million US dollars. And we believe not only this is an area which has tremendous impact, but we also believe it's really an untapped opportunity from a commercial perspective, because very often what you see is that investors go for the very large infrastructure projects, $100 million plus, or maybe more on the philanthropic side, where you have very small tickets, $1-2 million US dollar investments. But there is not many institutions out there covering the mid-sized range. And we have the opportunity here to tap into these uncharted territory to some extent. And the reason why we can do that is, first of all, we have worked on this initiative for many years. We started with the R20 Foundation to really establish the proof of concept. We have done a couple of investments in Brazil, for example, in the Amazon region, and this founding capital that we have had for the R20 Foundation really has allowed us to build a great track record here that otherwise would not be available and would not have otherwise allowed to start now really with a large scale fund to do it in what I would say quite a unique way of systematically scaling up private investments in that space. We are investing in 3 areas. One is renewable energy, the other one is waste and water, and the third very important area is nature-based solutions. Nature-based solutions is, for example, reforestation projects, regenerative agriculture, but it can also be more on the aquaculture side. So there's, I would say, a range of projects that fits into the nature-based solution space. But broadly speaking, we cover these 3 areas. We further invest in greenfield projects. So we really take projects from a piece of paper, so to speak, up until they are realized and operational, and then later on sell them on. We overall aim for a portfolio in the range of 15 to 25 projects. All of them with ticket sizes in the area that I've mentioned, up to 75 million US dollars. We typically aim for somewhat the larger range in this 5 to 75 million US dollars. And we have a great pipeline. I will come back to that in a couple of minutes together with David. But there is really a lot to do in that space. Then the second point that I believe is very important, and here I would say Craig is not only an investment legend, he's also a pioneer in many ways. Something else that he has pioneered with Pegasus is that with Pegasus, he is the first and only US private equity investment manager that is accredited by the Green Climate Fund. And in simple words, the Green Climate Fund is basically the development bank of the United Nations for everything related to climate. The accreditation of Pegasus allowed the Subnational Climate Fund to obtain a commitment of 150 million US dollars in funding from the GCF. And it's not only funding that is provided as kind of an anchor investment, it's provided as a so-called first loss investment. So that means that any potential losses in the fund up to 150 million US dollars is covered by the Green Climate Fund. And only if there are losses beyond 150 million, private investors would take a hit. And this is obviously quite a substantial de-risking of the fund. And now, as investors who might say, yeah, I'm more the type of a private equity, of an upside-oriented investor. You could say, okay, I don't care so much about the downside protection. It's nice to have, but it doesn't really help me. There is also a couple of elements in that first loss investment that boosts the IRR of the fund to the upside. And one of them is that as it works in practice, when there is exits of the projects, all the capital first goes back to private investors, and only if private investors have received the money back, then the GCF will get the money back. So this shortens your investment period, and by that just technically improves your IRR. And secondly, the capital from the GCF is also concessionary, so they have a preferred return of 3%, whereas for the private investors it's 8%. So also that kind of concession that they make on the return side is to the benefit of the private investor. Now, you might wonder why would a green climate fund do that and provide such concessional capital? The explanation in that is quite simply that the mandate of a development bank usually, and here very specifically on the climate side with the GCF, is to increase the impact and the development area of their work. And basically by contributing 150 million in concessionary capital, it allows the Green Climate Fund to scale up their overall initiative. Here, the target size of the fund is $750 million. So there is basically the option for private investors with an amount of up to $600 million that they can invest and be protected by the Green Climate Fund. And so for the Green Climate Fund, the great part of the story is out of $150 million, they can scale up to $750 million. And for the private investors, they can come in up to $600 million and enjoy the protection of the Green Climate Fund. So it's really a win-win situation for both parties. Now, the third element that I would like to briefly mention is that the critical element in such an initiative is, of course, not only that you are commercially successful with the investments, but that you also deliver on the impact side, that you contribute in a meaningful way to a social element and an environmental element, and that you very carefully manage and measure not only the investment side but also the impact side of the business. And in order to do that very independently and according to best practices, we have partnered up here with a foundation called Gold Standard. Gold Standard is one of the pioneers and leaders in the carbon credit market, so a very established institution. And what Gold Standard does here, they independently verify, measure the impact that the fund generates. So as investors in the fund, they will know in the end, okay, every ton of CO2 that we claim has been avoided by the fund, every ton of rainforest that has been protected by the fund, in the end, investors know this is independently verified by Gold Standard, and on every project there will be an independent report that is issued by Gold Standard to ensure that whatever is claimed here in terms of impact is also truly achieved. Now, before heading into some of the projects and pipeline, which I think is very exciting, a couple of maybe overall terms on the fund. So as I mentioned, the target size is $750 million. The target return net to investors is 12 to 15%. Net in US dollars. The structure is it's a Luxembourg investment fund, very established private equity hub and product structure. There is maturity 12 years, quite typical for a private equity fund. And where we stand now is we are just basically finalizing the paperwork with the GCF. So we are quite hopeful this will be done actually this week. And then within 30 days, we will get the first tranche of the capital of the Green Climate Fund. And with that, basically, we can start investing. So we basically expect to be in business at the beginning of March latest, and can then start to execute the pipeline. Now, in terms of regions, and now we're coming closer to the concrete projects that we will invest. The SCF is a global fund with a very strong footprint in Latin America. It's a bit special how you get to your investable countries when you get capital from the Green Climate Fund. So you need to have basically the local buy-in from the government that basically approves it's okay for the Green Climate Fund or any fund sponsored by the Green Climate Fund to invest in a particular country. So there has been quite a long process that Pegasus went through in order to obtain these so-called non-objection letters. And overall, Pegasus obtained 42 of them. GCF told us this is a record what they have seen. So we have quite a big mandate here with these 42 countries. In the end, as I mentioned, right, we are aiming for a portfolio of 15 to 25 projects. So we will not invest in all of the countries. And as you can see here from the list of countries, there's quite a strong buy-in from Latin America and the Amazon region, where we also see quite a significant deal flow, and where we are also, I would say, most advanced in terms of the projects that we are aiming to execute. And of course, overall, we need to diversify the fund across different regions. This is somewhat less relevant here in terms of our discussion. I would like to focus right now on the Amazon region and the projects that we have in the pipeline here, and across the three areas. So maybe starting with agriculture, nature-based solution. So as I hinted, this can be projects in the restorative, sustainable agriculture. There's really exciting projects out there that help not only to protect rainforest, but in the end be carbon negative. So it means these projects not only they are carbon neutral, but they save CO2 emissions and have a positive net contribution to the overall worldwide CO2 balance. So this is something we are quite excited to look at. There is also a number of biomass projects that we are looking at here. We have very strict criteria. None of these projects can have a negative impact on the forest or more generally on the environment, but also not on the local population. So there is a very strong safeguards in place. There is a very comprehensive environmental and social management system in place, and it's even public. You can look it up on the website of the Green Climate Fund. So with every project that we invest and we realize, we need to ensure that there are no people displaced by the project, that there is no forest or any other environmental harm being done, and that I think is also something which is quite unique compared to a lot of the other green or sustainable initiatives out there. Then, of course, waste management, low carbon waste to energy projects is something that we are looking into. We see a lot of interesting opportunities in the waste area. It's not an easy area to invest, so it's something where we are extra conscious in terms of environmental risks that are often associated with these type of projects. But if we look at the pipeline, there is really very strong deal flow in this area of projects. And then, of course, what you might be most familiar with is everything that is related to energy production, renewable energy, but also on the other hand, energy efficiency. This is also an area where we see very strong deal flow. Here, generally, the challenge is not necessarily the deal flow or the volume or getting the projects. It's much more to make sure that they are commercially viable and achieve the target return. The space has become quite competitive over the last years. So it's also an area where we as investment managers need to be very careful in terms of our investments, not only here in terms of the impact, the CO2 emissions, but also very much on the commercial side. This page just basically summarizes again the structure of the fund. So you can see here this 150 million first loss piece by the Green Climate Fund. And on top of that, you have the senior tranche, the private investors, which are protected by the $150 million. And there is a kind of a special feature, I would say, and I would hand over to David Albertani on that to tell you a bit more about how this part of the fund works. It's a so-called technical assistance facility, which is grant funding, $28 million, which is a separate pool of capital that the Green Climate Fund provides, that helps us to support projects with feasibility studies, market studies, with implementation of technologies. So basically everything that helps a project to become successful, we can tap into an additional $28 million to support those projects. And as I mentioned, it's grant funded. It's a separate pool of money. So this, in addition to basically the concessional capital that GCF provided as investment capital, this capital allows, first of all, to support projects, ensure success of the projects. By that also, again, de-risks the projects. And in addition to that is potentially $28 million that otherwise would be fund expenses that are saved by the fund, and again, to some extent support the IRR of the fund. And with that, I would like to hand over to David Albertani. He can give you some concrete examples on what we have worked on with the foundation in the past in the Amazon region, but also give you a bit more meat on the bone in terms of the projects that we are currently looking at. And then, of course, I will be more than happy to discuss with you and answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Patrick. Indeed, I believe, the technical assistance is very important for us. And our experience in the past is that you really definitively need some, development cost. And to get this, pipeline of bankable deals in developing countries, very often you need this kind of grant to support the activity related to the creation of the pipeline. And just to mention that the GCF actually is providing 18.5 million of this 28 grant mechanism for technical assistance. And we can finance any feasibility studies, so technical assessment, but also very importantly, we can finance environmental and social impact assessment. A lot of projects that you see out there sometimes have very good technical details. However, the environmental and impact social assessment is not up to our standard. So this is also something we can fund with grant assistance. So to make sure that the project indeed has the best, impact assessment. We can also, I just want to quickly mention, do capacity building. So we can make sure that once we find a good project and once a project has been successful, we can start replicating the project, make blueprint out of it, and make sure that the local authorities around it are well aware and can replicate on their own this type of project. And just to mention also this technical assistance manager, the technical assistance manager, is IUCN that I'm pretty sure you're very familiar with. And this is also a very good guarantee for us because IUCN has been really pioneering in all those kind of nature-based solutions. And we feel that especially tackling geographies such as the Amazon, definitively first you want to bring some positive aspect with your sustainable infrastructure, but also you want to do not harm and make sure that you're very close to biodiversity, and that the impact is, of course, the greenhouse gas emission, but the biodiversity is also a very strong impact that you want to be positive ultimately. Even, you know, when we speak about solar panels, there are ways today to include nature in the design to make sure that this will have a positive impact on biodiversity and not negative. And so having a partner such as IUCN in the consortium is really something that we're very proud of, because they are really the best and leading this kind of effort on nature-based solution. On Amazon also, I just wanted to say that one of the board member of R20 and also advisor to Pegasus is Mr. Terry Taminan, that you may know. He has been the CEO of the DiCaprio Foundation, and he has been very active in the Amazon. When there were the fire 2 years ago, the DiCaprio Foundation made a huge commitment and was very active for the Amazon. And Mr. Taminan was really leading this initiative, and he's currently an advisor to Pegasus and on the board of R20. So he's really someone committed on the Amazon. And thanks to his expertise, you know, we also have some deal flow coming to us. So long story short, definitively Amazon, we see an extensive pipeline. And as Patrick said, in the agriculture and nature-based solution, we really see that many municipalities and cities around the Amazon are looking for new ways to basically shift from the traditional agriculture that, you know, usually burn forest to create new land, and to see how we can really create new ways to do agriculture that will have, you know, as high, high yield crops, but in the meantime, not destroy the forest. And if you combine that with waste management, today what we can do is really have a more circular economy. When we grow fruit and vegetables, basically we eat and there is only a small part that can be commercialized, and most of the crop, you know, can be composted or carbonized to do biochar. And if you mix the compost and the biochar, you can really do additional project on the side of this land where you recreate new ecosystem, or not new ecosystem, but basically you restore destroyed ecosystem. So we are working in all those type of projects. And as you've seen, for instance, Brazil has signed a non-objection letter, and a lot of the Amazon is in Brazil. So this is definitively a geography where we see a lot of momentum. And definitively, this is something where we will have a lot of pipeline, and we're really excited about this opportunity. Patrick, maybe I give it back to you.
Yeah, fantastic. And Jono, and to all the viewers, I would really like to open the floor for questions. I've seen that we have also Simon Forsyth on, who is the lead investor on the fund. So I was hoping he can make it, and so it's great to have him on. So we can also really go into the technical details of deal structuring, etc. But over to you, Jono, and everyone who has a question.
Great. As we move into questions, I encourage people to indicate their interest by posting them in the chat area, just saying you're interested, or you can even post a question, or you can raise your hand using that function. So I just have a couple of questions I'm going to bundle together to get us started. One is indigenous communities. Is there a strategy for engaging them? Second, how can people engage, the people on this call, the broader public? Another, could you guys share an email address for people who want to follow up? Another is, what's the future website address of the Subnational Climate Fund? And then three other quick ones. What Amazon countries are you guys active in already? What investors are already in the pipeline? And what investment opportunities are in the pipeline? It's a lot of questions. Feel free to just answer one or two or one word on each.
I just noted them down so I don't forget any of them. So maybe on the indigenous communities, I think it's an excellent question, and something that is very, very important for the mandate to to basically really have all safeguards in place. First of all, not harming anyone, and ideally also involving and engaging them. And I think in particular with the subnational climate fund, and subnational is really it goes down to the individual communities that we want to support with that fund. And I would like to hand over the question more to David Albertani as well, because he has been working on a number of projects across the globe with exactly local communities, and has a lot of experience in that area.
Yes, thank you, Patrick. So, especially for indigenous communities, we have a very strong framework. So one is, of course, the one from the IFC with the performance standard, which, to be honest, is not the strongest, but with regard to the Green Climate Fund and our very strict environmental and social management system, we respect the IFC performance system. But on top of that, we have Gold Standard, who has a very specific framework for indigenous people. So this is also mandatory for the fund with respect to our environmental social management system. And the third point, maybe, which is also very important, is that there is mandatory stakeholder engagement meetings that we do on the ground. And this is something that, for instance, is paid by the technical assistance that we mentioned prior. So within the budget of the technical assistance, we always do stakeholder engagement meeting, and we have to do a specific stakeholder engagement meeting with the indigenous communities. And if there is any harm towards indigenous communities that have been raised, our environmental social management system automatically exclude this type of investment. So as soon as we trigger the IFC performance standard of indigenous people, the investment become excluded of the universe. So here we have a very strong firewall for the do not harm, but additionally, of course, we want to be more on the positive side and to empower them.
Excellent. Then maybe I capture briefly the question on the investor side. So we're working here with BNP Paribas in a partnership with different activities. One of their role here is also to act as the distributor and the placement agent of the fund. So we are reaching out basically since the beginning of this year to private investors. We already got the commitment to 150 million from the Green Climate Fund. On the private investor side, we are talking to generally professional investors. So these are professionally organized family offices up until of course pension funds, insurance companies, and so on. So really the professional investors or investors who have a professional setup, who want to make a difference in the world. I think the mindset is very important here. So it's absolutely key that we have investors in the fund that do not try to greenwash or try to greenwash with their investments. So beyond just having good partners in terms of the amount that they can invest, etc., that they understand what we do. It's also important for us to have like-minded investors here who want to make a difference in the world. And on the questions regarding countries and what is currently in the investment pipeline, maybe Simon, if you have the possibility to speak, would be great to hear a few sentences from you.
Sure. Hi, everyone. This is Simon Forsyth here, and very pleased to have all of your interest in the fund today. I would say in terms of countries, specifically, we would highlight Brazil and Ecuador today as being countries that we have the letters from for their interest. We are actively seeing investment projects in other Amazon bordering countries. Peru and Suriname come to mind, and there's a potential for the future that these will be added to our mandate. And so, I don't think I'm allowed to promise that to you, but that's things that we're working on. In terms of the pipeline, I think Patrick covered at a high level, and we're not able to give specific company names at this point, but we are seeing a great pipeline so far. They cover the primary subsectors that we consider being in energy, in renewables, as well as in efficiency projects. In waste, there's a number of forms, sometimes purely waste management, but often with an energy component. And I think we're excited to see, of course, in this context, nature-based solutions as well. Globally, it's not always easy to define the category, and certainly in the Amazon region, if I can say, it takes on even more increased prominence. And so it's great to see things like agroforestry and that sort of thing that may protect the region while still allowing activities to take place.
We've got 7 questions for you guys, so I'm going to take 2 at a time, and I encourage all question folks to be real fast. So Bobby Kia from the International Finance Corporation and Christina Borelli from SOS Orinoco. Bobby, you go first. We'll ask the questions back to back, and then you guys can respond. Go ahead, Bobby.
Thanks so much, Jonah. Just briefly about the currency potential, volatility going forward. Have you guys worked with TCX, or is BNP thinking of that, or how are you thinking about the net U.S. return projections?
Christine?
Yeah, so I realize that Venezuela is regarded as a very difficult country to work in, and it is. It is an Amazonian country, but as a Venezuelan working in Venezuela and starting to, do small projects in agroforestry and with the indigenous community, is there any interest at all from any of these investors in Venezuela?
Great questions, thank you. Regarding Venezuela, to start with that question, it is unfortunately not one of the countries that we can invest with the fund. I think it's of course a shame in one way, because Venezuela would be one of the countries that of course would have the most need for investments, but unfortunately it's not a country that we have a non-objection letter, and the investment environment, I think it is very, very challenging in Venezuela, unfortunately. On the currency hedging side, I've worked very, very much with the TCX in the past. I think it's a great initiative to have it available. Here, since we are investing in greenfield equity projects, the currency hedging is typically quite difficult, because you don't know exactly when you're going to exit, what are the exit proceeds, etc., etc. So there is quite a bit uncertainty around that. So we are not ruling out that we do currency hedging depending on the currency and the situation at the time of the investment. What we certainly do for all investments is that we take the currency risk into account, and when we start the modeling on any of the projects, we basically incorporate a certain depreciation. In most cases, it is a depreciation against the US dollars that we take into account, and so the net 12 to 15% US dollar return that we aim for here is after taking into account a certain currency depreciation.
Great, thanks for that. Next up, John and Danielle, when you guys ask your question, also please name your institutional affiliation. Go ahead, John Meissner.
Thanks, Jonah. Yeah, hi, this is John Meissner from MXV Ventures. I had a question about the grant funding that you mentioned. You talked about, I think it was 28 million available. Was part of that from GCF and part of it from IUCN itself? Maybe talk a little bit about the sources of that. Is any of it government funding, for example? Thank you.
Go ahead, Danielle.
Hi there, Danielle Rappaport, Conservation 4.0 Consulting, and I'll be working with Jonah on the Amazon Investor Coalition. My question is, can you speak a little bit more about any trends that you've observed in terms of investor appetite across those three subsectors, and whether there's one that is harder to sell to investors in terms of risk and reward?
Yeah, sure. David, would you like to take the question on the grant funding?
Sure. So on the grant funding, so the technical assistance, indeed, the total size is $28 million US. We already secured 18.5 from the Green Climate Fund. There is 3 million coming from IUCN, and that is coming from national government, but for the nature-based facility of IUCN. And we are fundraising for the extra for the one left. And within the prospect, indeed, we have European governments who are targeted.
And on the,
Okay.
on the
Go
sorry,
ahead. Go ahead, Patrick.
On the second question in terms of trends and the three areas. So all three areas have their of course very exciting parts. They have their challenges. Renewable energy efficiency, I would say overall is the most established of the three areas. Here the upshot is there is a lot of volume there. There is very established and proven technologies. The challenge that comes with that is more on the commercial side, that it's very competitive, returns often are not great. So you have to be very selective in terms of the projects that you go in here. In the waste space, there I think we see a lot of great opportunities from a commercial perspective, but the environmental and social safeguards are extremely challenging that you need to be very careful to look at. And where I would say in terms of the most dynamics from a trend perspective, I think they are in the nature-based solutions area. And nature-based solutions, it's quite a wide and somewhat unspecific term that goes from shrimp farms to regenerative agriculture, to reforestation projects, to agriculture projects, etc. So it's a wide space in that sense. But I see a lot of innovation in that in that space. I see a lot of investment opportunities that come along in the nature-based solutions area. The challenge that comes with that is it's often highly innovative stuff, which is great and exciting. But from a commercial perspective, of course, you would like to see something that is established, has a track record, that is proven. So these are a bit the challenges that we see in that space. But it's great, the variety and the opportunities that come from that side.
Great. We have about 11 minutes left, so we'll move a little quickly. Next up, Alex and Amalia. Please go ahead and say your institutional affiliation right before you ask your question. Alex?
Okay, hi Jonah, hi Patrick. This is Alexander Rose from GIZ Brazil. I'm from the Forest Program and I work with sustainable use of the Amazon forest. I have a question specifically for the smart agriculture and nature-based solutions you're financing in Brazil. Considering that there are not that many companies in Brazil that could really take on a loan or a credit of that size you're operating, and the few companies that can do it, they usually have access to low carbon agriculture credits from state banks that are usually cheaper and subsidized. When you take the public side, according to the Brazilian law of responsibility, fiscal responsibility, they basically are already in debt and it has to go through Senate. It takes a long time. So how do you make yourself competitive in Brazil for Amazon investment on nature-based solutions? Can you tell me something on that in that respect?
Yeah, absolutely. And
1 minute. Let's just let Amalia ask her question as well, and then you'll take both questions at the same time. Go ahead, Amalia.
Hi, I am Malia Souza from Casa Social Environmental Fund. We are a small medium-sized grant fund in Brazil, and we fund a lot in the Amazon. I'm just curious, who you are working with here? What kinds of organizations, what kind of knowledge are you tapping into that actually make your investment solid and strong? I hadn't heard of your initiative before, and I've checked with a few of the NGOs, at least, which is our area, that haven't either. So I'm just wondering if it's how that plays off, and how do you see it, the real population of the Amazon, not just Brazil, but across the border, actually benefiting?
Great, thanks. Go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah. And so in terms of the partners, unfortunately, I cannot disclose some of them that we are working with and where we are under NDA. What I can say is certainly that two important partners that we are working on the foundation side is R20 and IUCN, which are both part of the consortium, and of course the networks of R20 and IUCN. And so there's a lot of environmental non-profit organizations that partner with IUCN, and through our relationship with IUCN, we also partner with them on the ground. And then there is, of course, on the commercial side, there is project developers, which are more private and commercial oriented in nature. But those I'm unfortunately not allowed to disclose at this stage. But I'm very happy that we have such a strong network with R20, with IUCN, with our local partners, that we also see such a strong deal flow in Amazon, in the Amazon area, and in particular in Brazil, I would say. And in terms of the benefit for the Amazon population, which is of course at the front and center of every investment that we do, is the local community. And we have seen really bad cases in the past where you had a large scale renewable energy power plant next to a small village, and no one in the village had access to energy. And at the same time, these large-scale power plants could not feed into the national grid because the national grid was totally overwhelmed already and could not take in basically the energy that was supposed to be produced with these projects. So this is also why we take a very community-oriented approach here. So we want to make sure that the energy that is produced through our renewable clean power plants, that they deliver affordable clean energy to the population in the area, that whatever projects that we realize, that they create jobs on the ground for the population, that are training programs for the local communities. And so it's really a multidimensional approach that we take here, that ensures that it's not only one element that we take into account that we want to achieve, but really comprehensively benefits the local population that is living in and around these projects that we realize. And briefly on the question regarding how do we make ourselves competitive, of course, this is something we work very hard on every day. And one element, I believe, we do have a very strong edge here, is that we are a greenfield equity investor. So we are not a loan or a debt provider. We realize projects that we are part of from the very first day, that we help to bring to investability through the grant funding that we have. There is not many funds out there that have grant funding available to sponsor feasibility studies and so on. So we have a very strong package, and with our great partners on the ground, also a unique network that brings project opportunities to us.
Great. We have just a few minutes left on the call. The Zoom room will stay open past the top of the hour, so I encourage you guys from Subnational Climate Fund to stay on. More people will have questions. So let's go ahead and hear back to back from the representative of Sail Ventures and then Nonette.
Hi there, thank you. My name is Marijke. I work for Sail Ventures. We manage the nGreen Fund, which actually has the similar investment targets of sustainable land use, very much focused on Brazil. And I was just wondering about your impact targets. I heard CO2 sequestered and hectares of forest protected, I believe. But if you could elaborate a little bit more what your main impact targets are, how they are defined.
And Nonette?
Thank you. I am looking at the areas of land where you are locating your projects, the interest being that indigenous peoples who have secure tenure and are owners of that land could likely be, if you look at the standards and the safeguards, partners and co-investors. So my question is that made possible if they are indeed taking the hat of being an investor in this whole initiative, will you partner with them? So I'm curious, as I asked earlier, are there matches in the countries that you have non-objection letters from countries? Who are those, and are they matching with indigenous peoples that can actually carry as partners in this investment?
And Nonette works with the tenure facility.
I work with the tenure facility, and we are investing in grants that secure tenure in territories, and we're realizing there's a lot in the Amazon area. Yeah.
Go ahead, Patrick.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for the questions, and maybe starting with the second one, we are very open to local partners who want to co-invest with us in projects. That's I think that's again something that is to the benefit of the projects, that is to the benefit of the fund. We typically aim for majority stakes in the projects, just for also efficiency reasons. But beyond that, we are very open for having local partners investing with us. It can be local communities, it can be of course local developers, it can be other parties on a case-by-case basis. If it's to the benefit of the community or the project, we are also fine to take a minority stake on an exceptional basis. So here we are, just hit us up, and we are of course very happy to discuss that.
And Patrick, if I can just add one word also on that, within the technical assistance, as I mentioned before, part of it is dedicated for capacity building, and one of the targets of the capacity building is to target potential local entrepreneur, investors, communities. So to have this capacity building element, so that we can explain them how to invest in the equity, structure the deal with them. So the technical assistance has a grant component to make sure that we can include them, and we have a sufficient capacity so that we can co-create this project with them. So the technical assistance can support this process actually.
Very well. And on the impact targets, since it's a climate fund, the overarching target is to avoid 82,000 tons of CO2 emissions with the projects that we will realize with the fund. But beyond that, we have additional impact targets metrics on a project by project case. It can for a water treatment project, it will be very different to a reforestation project. So this will be very individual on a project level. it always comes with two metrics or dimensions. One is always a safeguarding dimension, and one is a target that we want to achieve. And this again is also in each of the cases independently ensured and verified by Gold Standard.
Great. We have reached the top of the hour. This is what I usually call water cooler time, where class is dismissed, so to speak, and most of the people leave the call. But I'm going to stay around. I'm going to leave the room open in the chat room, and generally there's ongoing unstructured conversations. This is where we cover questions that weren't able to be covered otherwise. You guys from the Subnational Climate Fund are certainly welcome to stay around, or you're welcome to go. Thanks you so much for sharing your email addresses. Thank you so much.
It was a great pleasure. Thank you all so much. Fantastic session here. I left my email address there. You will find us at peakhealth.com. Hit me up on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to connect, and I will stay around a couple of more minutes. So if you have any more questions, happy to take them.
Anybody's welcome to come off the microphone and ask or introduce yourself. This is the moment in like a radio show where the announcer says, "Okay, and our first call is." There's no first caller. Amalia, you came off microphone. Do you want to ask some questions?
I guess I hit. You're still recording though.
Oh, yes. Okay, I can stop the recording so we can go into confidential questions.